And I'm really, really excited to announce our keynote speaker here in London. And it's made even better. We thinned out a little bit, but it means we're a smaller group with a very renowned, world-renowned performance coach, psychologist, and author who will be sharing the secrets to high performance. So I'd love to welcome Jamil Qureshi to the stage. And if you want to move forward, let's make this an intimate session. Please feel free to.
Thank you. I think so. We'll give it a go. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I was expecting a bit more energy than that, even for your final session. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to be part of your day. I'm a psychologist. I'm a performance coach. And I'm very lucky. I get a chance to work with some very good sports teams and some very good business teams. And I guess what I do is I help people cultivate a mindset for success. So I always say for us to act differently, we need to think differently. For us to create some different behaviours for ourselves or for people we manage and lead, it's really about creating some different thinking. So I guess what I do more than anything else is help people change their mind, help people to think differently. Sounds a bit rubbish, that bit, doesn't it? When people think differently. What a ridiculous job. All think differently anyway, don't we? How many times do you hear that in a week? We need to think differently. All think differently anyway. Different mindsets, different viewpoints, different ways of seeing the world, every single one of us. Let me give you an example of two people thinking differently. It is the best example that I can give you of two people thinking differently. I stayed with a friend of mine not so long ago. I haven't seen him since university days. I never met his wife before, but they are, what's the word? They are spiritualists. They believe in crystal healing. They believe in all things holistic. They are very spiritual people. Showing me all around their house, showing me their crystal collection. I go into the bedroom and everywhere is red. Red carpets, red bedspread, red walls, red curtains. Now, of course you ask, why the red? And you know what she said? It's brilliant. She said that when you pull these red curtains in the morning and the sun comes in, it's as if you are being reborn every day. With red curtains in the morning, the sun comes in, it's as if you are emerging from the womb. I thought it was quite a nice sentiment, actually. I quite liked it until I told my wife about it. And then she reminded me, we've got brown curtains at home. Different perspectives, I guess, isn't there? Different ways of seeing life, different ways of seeing relationships, different ways of seeing business. We got 40 minutes or so together. It's not long, is it? Talk about psychology of success. But we'll do it. I'm sure we will. In fact, you know what? I always like to take the mood of the room before we get started. It genuinely shapes what we do. I've only just got here, actually. I know some of you have been here from morning, haven't you? Some of you from lunchtime. How do we take the mood of the room? I know what to do. Look, you know what? Keep it very simple. If it's been a good day so far, if you have had a good day, had a good morning, good afternoon, been a good day, why don't we just a little elbow bump or a handshake with the person next to you and just say, oh, it's been a good day today. Don't do it if it hasn't been. Don't do it if it hasn't been. I just want to see. A little handshake or a little elbow bump. In fact, you know what? It should be a fist bump. Fist bump. There's more energy in a fist bump. Do a fist bump if it's been a good day today. In fact, you know what? Look, if it's been a good day today, you've enjoyed the day, what about a little hug, a little cuddle? I've pushed it too far. And if you enjoyed today, what about a little kiss on the lips? I pushed it too far, right? Okay. Right, do you have a pen and paper with you? Do you have pen and paper with you? Or your mobile phones? Take your phones out for my session, please. And it's okay. And in fact, you shouldn't call it a mobile phone. Do you know that? A friend of mine a few weeks ago said, don't call it a mobile phone. You call it a phone. If you call it a mobile phone, it proves you're over 40. Just call it a phone. Fine. Phones out, please, or pieces of paper, either's fine, so you can make a note. Because I am going to ask for you to make a 1 degree of change. What's that I hear you cry? What's that I hear you cry? What's that? What's that I hear you mumble disinterestedly? 1 degree of change, if you take two parallel lines and you move one by 1 degree, it doesn't seem much at first. But there is a big difference between where you start and where you end up. Everyone is always trying to start something or stop something when it comes to being better. New Year's resolutions. You know who you are. From tomorrow, I will be different. I'm going to start doing this, I'm going to stop doing that. We do it in business all the time. We talk about green light and red light behaviour, don't we? From tomorrow, guys, we need to start doing this or we need to stop doing that. I think starting things and stopping things as a human being is really hard work. I believe the route to greater success is simply to do something a little bit more, occasionally. If we remember. This is easy self-development, isn't it? Why don't you do something a little bit more if you remember? I hope you enjoyed the talk. Thank you very much. I'm going to the bar. I'd love to do that, actually. But on a more serious note, I do believe that success is about that, actually. I have had the pleasure of working with 6 sports people who got to #1 in the world. And I promise you now that not one of them ever said to me, from tomorrow I'm going to be different. You know, from tomorrow I'm going to make a sea change, do something dramatic. No one ever said that. They only ever said, this seems to be working, so I'm going to do it some more. Or I'm getting some results with this, actually, so I'm going to be a bit more consistent with it. And that's how they talked about success. I'll tell you something else. The thing that they've looked to improve is something that they are already good at. So we think to be better as a HR leader, as a business, as a team, whatever it might be. We need to fix our weaknesses. Let's close the gaps. Let's find out what's wrong, try and improve upon it. I'm not sure success is about that, actually. I think it's often about understanding what's already good about us and turning the volume up on it. Being a bit more consistent with its application. Recognizing it as a strength and transferring it from one area of our life or world and into another. I've actually worked with teams before, in business and in sport, who have actually weakened a strength by trying to strengthen a weakness. Think about it. Ludicrous, isn't it? Actually weaken a strength by trying to strengthen a weakness. So we need to be careful. I think success is about self-awareness. I think success is about personal introspection. For those of you who don't like personal introspection, you should take a long, hard look at yourself. It's very important. Anyway, you got a pen and paper with you or your phones? That's fine. I'm going to ask for you to make a 1 degree of change. I would love for you to write down one word, one sentence, one idea in our 40 minutes or so together that you think is all right. That's how easy this session is. It's the end of the day, isn't it? Write down one word, one sentence, one idea that you think is okay. In fact, you know what? Make it even easier for you. You're going to be spending the evening together, aren't you? Some of you? Yeah, possibly tonight. Who knows? But you are going to be spending good time together after this session. So maybe you find your 1 degree of change from someone else in this room rather than my bit up here. I'm a massive believer in connectivity, huge believer in connectivity. People ask me all the time, what is success? It's a question I get asked a lot, actually. What is success? I say success is about making a connection between 2 things previously unconnected. That is my definition of success, about making a connection between 2 things previously unconnected. So there's usually 2 ideas come together, enable success to take place. 2 people get together and then they argue, they debate, they share, and they create an outcome which is bigger and better than what they would create on their own. And you think about what Lattice would give HR professionals is insight, analysis, understanding, commoditization of process, whatever it might be, making a connection that other people wouldn't be able to make, and, which allows both parties to be successful. All about being connected, and that's what it's about. I don't know about you guys, but the more that we were asked to stay apart, the more I realized how much we needed to be together. Arguing, debating, sharing, contextualizing the world through the lens of other people. High diversity, high psychological safety. Best teams I work with at the moment, actually, have high diversity, high psychological safety. Lots of people with different thoughts, different ideas, different experiences, but you've got to be free to share them, argue them, debate them, unlearn, be curious about how we take the collective opinions and knowledge and turn it into something future relevant in regard to our decision making. I used to do a lot of work at Hewlett-Packard. Hewlett-Packard would often say, if Hewlett-Packard knew what Hewlett-Packard knows, we would be 3 times more successful. And it's so true, isn't it, of any organisation, any group of people. How many people got in the room? About 50 people in the room, haven't we? Can you imagine if we could take what's inside your heads, or your knowledge, or your expertise, or your experience, all 50 of you. Take what's inside your heads, all your contacts, place it all on one table, and all have access to it. Imagine how successful all of us could become. If knowledge could become a new asset class in any leadership team, HR team, any business actually. I am a firm believer that our only sustainable, competitive advantage is to learn faster and better than your competitors. How do you learn faster and better than your competitors if you work in isolation? Driving your own to-do list, driving your own area of technical expertise, your own geography, can't be done. So we only really learn faster and better through other people. I'm also a firm believer, actually, that companies no longer compete against companies. I see that all the time at the moment. Cross sectors. Companies no longer compete against companies, networks compete against networks. So you're only really as strong as your network. There's an external narrative in there for your organisation, but there is an internal narrative for you if you are a HR professional, or if you're in a go-to-market team or customer success team. You're only as successful as the relationships you forge, partnerships you create, strategic alliances you play into, the way in which you argue, debate, and share with other people to understand the world differently. In fact, you know what? I'll go even further. We suffer from a proximity bias. We tend to hang around some people in our department or geographically in our office, a proximity bias. The more that we can be connected outside of what we already know, the more insight and provocation that we get, allowing us to think differently about our world. You know what it's like in an organisation. You've got a marketing problem, who are you going to go to? You've got a marketing. You've got a finance problem, who are you going to go to? You've got a finance. These are the people who gave you the problem in the first place. Therefore, we need to think like an outsider, moving outside of what we currently know to a space to make new connections. Anyway, look, enough of this. I've only got 45 minutes. Can't just talk about connectivity. I'll get told off. I'm here to do psychology. Should we do some psychology? Or say yes? Yes. Come on, let's do some psychology. This is how you work as a human being. You think, you feel, and then you act. That's how you work as a human being. We think, and then we feel, and then we act. Your children do this, by the way. Your partners do it. Wider executive does it. And board members do it. Customers, consumers, shoppers, we all do it. And so we think, and then we feel, and then we act. All our actions and behaviours come from how we feel. It comes from the words and pictures in our heads. So we think in words and pictures. It makes us feel a particular way, and then we act upon it. People say to me all the time, I've got customer-facing staff. They need to behave differently. How do I get them to behave differently? I've got a whole layer of middle management. You know what? You need to behave differently. How do I get them to do it? My children need to behave differently. Got any tips? I think a smart leader, smart manager, driving change in themselves, driving change in other people, doesn't work in here at all. Telling people to be different or telling themselves to be different, but actually works in here, changing words and pictures in their own head or in other people's heads to drive different feelings, which in turn result in different actions. When it comes to change in an organisation, when it comes to change in an individual, it is the difference between commitment and compliance where you choose to work, difference between commitment and compliance. We tell people to be different all the time, don't we? Come on, guys, you should be more collaborative. Go on, be more collaborative. Does it work? No. You should be more innovative. Come on, you've got half an hour. Go and do some innovation. What's wrong with you? Does it work? No. We tell our children to keep their rooms tidy. How are you getting on with that one? Actually, we tell ourselves to be different, don't we? We say to ourselves that we should drink less. We should smoke less. We should eat healthier. We should work out more. Does it work? Look at the people next to you. No. 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 Actually, here's one for you. How many of you are driving along, you see a speed camera, and then you see the markings that follow the speed camera, so you slow down. How many of you slow down when you drive through a speed camera? Very good, well done. How many of you get to the end of those markings, look in the rear view mirror, you know who you are, and speed up? It's true, isn't it? Shall I tell you why you do that? As a psychologist, shall I tell you why you do that? The reason why you do that is that you are more concerned about not getting a £60 speeding fine than you are providing a safe society for our children. You shits. But you know what? We all do it. The reason why is that you will never change the way in which anyone will do it unless you change the way in which we view it. This is why people support what they help to create. It's an important change transformation principle. An important leadership principle, important sales principle, actually. People support what they help to create. The best way to get someone to execute upon an idea is for them to believe it was their own. And maybe, if you lead teams, work in teams, whatever it might be, project teams, we shouldn't give people tasks to do. We should give them problems to solve. Allow them to think differently about the ask, feel differently about their investment and commitment towards it, ability to self-express within it, choose to act in a different manner. And maybe this is also why we shouldn't recruit for cultural fit, but for cultural contribution. People who can come in and take the problem, look at it from different perspectives, create an influx of new ideas, and to allow a team to feel differently about the new perspectives which are given, choose to act in a different manner in regard to their capability. Why am I telling you this? What's this got to do with your success in the next 12 months? Let me explain. I want you to imagine someone sets up a business. And the business is anything, sell any product, any geography, any distribution channels, any pricing points. What's interesting is the motivation of the leader. This leader says the business has got to work, and if it does, I'll be financially independent soon. Business has got to work. If it does, then I can move to America. The market will be right there in a few years. I can buy a dream home in France. If the business works, then I get more time off for the children. I can upgrade the house, upgrade the car, upgrade the partner, whatever it might be. I want you to imagine that someone else sets up same business, same geography, same distribution channels, everything's the same. Apart from the motivation of this business owner says the business has got to work, and if it doesn't, I could go bankrupt. Might have to make redundancies. If it doesn't work, I might have to downsize or downgrade. If the business doesn't work, then my friends will laugh at me. This person is motivated by what they're seeking to achieve and create. This person is motivated by what they're seeking to avoid. I guarantee you now that people who perform at optimum levels in business and in sport, particularly in a time of disruption, more often than not, are motivated by what they're seeking to achieve and create, not motivated by what they're seeking to avoid. Why? The reason why is that we are drawn towards our most dominant thoughts. So expectation becomes reality. We get what we think about. We're talking think, feel, and act. How do these words make you feel if you think about them? Redundancy, bankruptcy, downsizing, failure. Make you feel pretty awful, don't they? And do you know how we act upon it when we don't want to lose something? I don't want to lose this client, I don't want to lose this pitch, I don't want to lose this team member, don't want to lose credibility, don't want to lose market share, margin, revenue, income. I've heard them all. Do you know what we don't want to lose in terms of us moving away from something we're seeking to avoid? Do you know how we act? We seek to protect it. So we commit to neutrality and protectionism. That's what we do. I don't want to lose this. So therefore I'll look after it and I'll maintain the position. Neutrality and protectionism. This is why nothing breeds mediocrity like success. I've seen it so many times in sports teams and in business teams, where successful teams will often breed stewards, not innovators. People who can maintain the current position, look after what we've already got. That's what we need to do. How do we commit to a growth mindset in our teams? How do we outperform markets? How do we create clear blue water between ourselves and competition? How do we embrace new technologies, connect differently? If we're simply involved in maintenance, looking after what we've got, make sure we're safe, don't want to lose. By the way, if you don't want to lose something, did you know you're more likely to lose it? Did you know that? It's a human thing, it's really weird. So I don't lose this relationship, I don't want to lose this pitch, I don't want to lose this team member, don't lose market share, you're more likely to lose it. Isn't that incredible? The reason why is that our subconscious mind never hears the words not or don't. So it's actually negative goal setting. So you never hear the words, human being, you will never ever hear the words not or don't. It's the old one, don't think of a white bear. Don't think of a dog. You need to construct the thought to deconstruct it. You need to think about it to not think about it. That's our issue. If you put into Google, do not show me pictures of white bears, guess what you get? It's exactly how our brain works. I work with 3 golfers who are inside the top 10 in the world at the moment, and I promise you now that not one of them will stand over the ball and say, don't hit it left. Don't drop it in the water. You amateur golfers know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? I feel a pain in the room from the amateur golfers. Don't miss this part. I spent a lot of time with the late and great Gary Speed. And Gary Speed is a great footballer. But not only was he a great footballer, he was a world-class penalty taker. Not a lot of people know that. World-class as a penalty taker. If ever you spoke to him about taking penalties, he would say, when I know I'm going to take a penalty, I ask myself a question. I put the question on loop, it repeats in my head, but I don't answer it. As I run towards the ball, I'm probably 2 strides away from kicking the ball. The answer just comes to me. An 11 pace run up, 11 steps. 2 steps away from kicking the ball, the answer would just pop into his head. The question that he would ask himself before each penalty, for every single penalty, the question that he would ask himself was, which way will I run? Left or right? To celebrate having scored this goal. See, success took place in his head as he ran towards the ball, rather than running at the ball saying, don't miss it. Don't hit it at the goalkeeper. Don't hit it over the goalposts. How many times in strategy, plans, connectivity, relationships, our careers, and in the last few years in particular, have we been motivated by mitigating risk? What we don't want to happen. Guys, I quite like the idea of commoditizing this part of the onboarding process. I like it. Why don't we do it? Yeah, I know, but it makes a change in software. That's the problem, isn't it? To be able to do that. I know it's a greater efficiency and effectiveness if it works, but what if it doesn't improve the experience of our candidates? What do we lose on this? Time, money. How much do we lose if it doesn't work? Provide a better result than what you're talking about. Guys, I quite like the idea, get these two teams together, why not? Might give us better insight, analysis, understanding in this particular area, get a chance to talk to each other. Yeah, I know, but what if it doesn't? How much is it going to cost us to do it? Time, money? What do we lose on this one if it doesn't get the results you're talking about? So many new ideas at the mercy of what we're seeking to protect. That's the issue, seeking to look after. Dream home in France, moving to America, I can't remember, silly examples. But when we are motivated by what we are seeking to achieve and create together, so I mean as a leadership team or as a business, as a HR team, when we're motivated by what we're seeking to achieve and create together, I think we feel different, I think we act different. I think teams who are unified, more collective understanding of what we're seeking to achieve and create are much more likely to co-author and co-create. So much more likely to think about their strategies and plans in the context of speaking to other people outside of who they usually speak to. I think people in this space here can create a culture that values discovery over knowing. Do you know we have these better conversations based upon greater levels of curiosity, greater levels of challenge and understanding of the problems we're looking to solve. Take external and internal stimulation, provocation in new and different ways. I think people in this space here are much more likely to be purposeful, more likely to be ambitious and expansive with the strategies they put in place, technologies they adopt, rather than just replicate what we did last year. Why not? It's good enough. Sort of works, isn't it? It's all right. And by the way, purpose maximization will always drive profit maximization. Some really good examples of it, actually, at the moment. Tom's shoes. Have a look at Tom's shoes. Some good examples. I think that passion is a significant multiplier of human performance. There are so many companies with mission statements, but so very few on a mission, truly galvanizing their people behind a worthy cause. I think that leaders, I think brands, I think organizations have gone wrong in the last few years when they focus upon what they can have rather than what they can be. Do you know these, I bet you've seen it, these organizations who treat their customers as atomized consumers to be sold to, rather than essential partners to be engaged with. Talking, learning, listening, understanding, moving together into a space where we all find the beauty in the chaos. By the way, there's an added benefit of becoming more purposeful. It is a truism that organizations need talented people more than talented people need organizations. So if you want to recruit and retain the best people, you need to become more purposeful anyway. Lots of evidence on that. You talk about the war for talent. I honestly believe it's over, and I think talent has won. So therefore, what we need to do is become more purposeful to allow people to understand that we're trying to create something sustainably successful and truly relevant in the world which is changing and more demanding of it. No longer about time management, since we're talking about high performance, no longer about time management. It's about energy management. Managing our energy into a space where we create most impact and most value. But how do we know where that is unless we constantly reference what we're seeking to achieve together? I guess this is transactional and this is transformational. Let me give you an example, another example of think, feel and act, since we're talking about it. I was in a pub at Christmas and I was talking to someone about what we do for a living. It's a true story, chatting to a stranger about what we do for a living. He said, I allow the future to take place. I regretted asking. I said, what do you mean? He said, I allow the future to take place. He said, I shape communities. That's what I do. And as it transpired, as it turned out, he was a firefighter. But I quite liked it when he explained it, because it is actually true. He does allow the future to happen. People now live who would have died. And they go on to have children and go on to have children. So he allows the future to happen. He shapes communities because buildings stand that would have burnt to the ground. So he thinks every single day when he walks to work, I allow the future to take place. He thinks every single day when he walks to work, I shape communities, I do. How do you think he feels when he walks through the door of his office? Does anyone need to tell him how to act or behave in front of a customer or colleague? I think not. And the reason why is that he doesn't define himself by what he does. He defines himself by the value that he creates for other people. It's a really important high-performance principle out in the workplace. Doesn't define himself by what he does, defines himself by the value that he creates for others, his contribution, how he enables other people to be better as a result of what he does. If you want to get the most out of yourself in the next 12 months, and get the most out of people you manage and lead in the next 12 months, move away from job titles, job roles, job descriptions. What defines you confines you. That's the issue. So if we want to bring our best self into the workplace, we need to find more value in our to-do list. And we only do that by realising what it results in. We are a social species, so we actually feel most alive when we're helping other people. As you're most alive, most engaged, most enthusiastic, we're actually helping other people, evolutionary psychology. So this is why communities will always outperform bureaucracies and hierarchies when it comes to maximising human talent every single time. So 400,000 people volunteered for the NHS in one day, because community will always outperform bureaucracy and hierarchy. Maybe it's one way in which you could see your HR team, sales team, see your business actually. Maybe not as a team with objectives or a business with targets, but maybe as a community with a purpose. Talented people choosing to come together, create something meaningful and sustainably successful for the people who choose to interact with you. So when we feel most alive, we know we're helping others. I'll prove it to you. When do you feel most alive? Is it when you write out your to-do list? No? We feel most alive when we teach a 5-year-old something that they didn't know how to do. Feels great, doesn't it? Light a cigarette in a crosswind. Just sitting here listening. I'm just not sure I didn't do that, it's a joke. He started coughing, I didn't do it. When we help a neighbour move house, feels good, doesn't it? Especially if it's a crappy neighbour you don't like. Or when we lend a friend money, don't worry about it, I'll lend you the money, it's fine, don't you mention it. We're friends, it's okay. Feels great, doesn't it? I'm always lending my friends money, but I can never ask for it back. I'm particularly bad at asking for money back that I have lent out. I go to their house and I break an object of equal value. I don't, you think I'm joking, do it, honestly, do it, you'll know. So anyway, we need to define ourselves not by what we sell, but by what our customers value. So how do we reference this one? So, well, I'll tell you what, let's do it in 2 ways, because there's people from Lattice here, and there's HR professionals, so let's make it relevant to everyone. So I think there's a big difference between what we sell and what a customer buys. There's an even bigger difference between what we sell and what a customer values, isn't there? People don't buy technology. People don't buy HR. They value something else. I'll tell you what, let me give you the example and then you can translate it. So I'll tell you what I mean, then you can just interpret it in any way you want to. So, I'm a customer of a bank. Do you know what I value from my bank? I've never bought a product in my life. I love my bank, I've been with them 11 years, I love them. Do you know what I value from my bank? I value a good night's sleep. I want my bank to provide me with a good night's sleep. I want them to provide me with freedom. I want independence, I want choice. That's what I want from my bank. If another bank phoned me up tomorrow and said that we can provide you with a better night's sleep, I would change banks tomorrow. I got a bank phoning me up, understanding what I value as a customer, not what they're trying to sell me as a business. Wouldn't that be amazing? What do banks do? Not be unfair to banks. I work with a lot of banks. What do? They define themselves by trading metrics. Market share, margin, revenue, income, product modification, product distribution, new channels, grow the business from the inside out. Maybe it's the reason why PayPal wasn't invented by a bank. How funny is that? Unless you work in banking, then it's crap, isn't it? Banks had the networks, the customers, they had everything. It took someone outside the sector to give us what we wanted in banking. No one in financial services could give us what we wanted in financial services. The curse of incumbency. Future relevant, future literate from outside the sector. Do you use Skype? Used Skype before? It's not invented by anyone in telecommunications. How funny is that? Spotify. Do you use Spotify? It's not invented by anyone in the music industry. How funny is that? Took someone outside the sector, give us what we wanted. Future relevant, future literate. The curse of incumbency, that's what I call it. I guess the reason why I'm telling you this is that there is an entrepreneur somewhere on this earth at this very moment who is forging a bullet with your company name on it. And you can't dodge that bullet, by the way. You do have to fire first. Companies are good at being better. They are bad at being different. And you can't trust the future to anyone who champions the past. Future demands us to be different. I always say now that companies that were born for success in the 20th century, by definition, are bred for failure in the 21st. It's not change catching organisations out, is it? It's the pace of change catching organisations out. So how do you remain future relevant in your role, in HR, in sales? How do you remain future relevant in your organisation? The only way you do it is to define yourself by the value that you are creating for other people. And then work backwards in an agile, open-minded, flexible manner, deploying resource and capability to consistently provide that value, no matter how much it changes. It's the only way it can be done. Moving away from the rigidity of our core proposition, our job titles, job roles, all the things that hold us in place. And I don't know if you were in a bar on a Friday night and someone very attractive came over to you, tapped you on the shoulder and said, "What do you do for a living?" What would you say? Would you say, "I work for Lattice"? Would you say, "I'm in customer success"? Would you say, "I run a HR team"? Would you say, "I'm in telecommunications, financial services"? Would you say, "I'm an accountant"? Actually, don't say that. You'll be going home alone. Don't say accountant. No one sleeps with accountants. Say you work in marketing. They're more interesting. Or would you say, "I deal in man's greatest freedom, choice"? Because you work for Lattice. And you allow people greater insight, analysis, and understanding. They can make better decisions, more decisions than what they thought they had possible. Would you say, "I make the world a smaller place"? Because you work in HR, you're a connector of people, directorates, teams, opportunities. Would you say, "I make the world turn faster for people"? Because you work in HR and your stakeholders can get on and do what they want to do because of what you provide them with. Would you say, "I'm in the business of keeping promises"? Because you work for Lattice or you work in HR. Would you say, "I'm in the business of memorable experiences"? Because you're a leader. Actually, don't say that one on Friday night. Don't say that one on a Friday night. My point is, we need to define ourselves not by what we sell, but by what our customers truly value. Let me share this with you in our last 9 minutes together. I thought I'd save this till last because it's actually the most important thing that I can say to you today. I know you've had lots of information today on new technologies, new ways of working, new insight and understanding. And you're all here because you want to be better. But there's one thing that I needed to tell you because I honestly believe it's the greatest inhibitor of human performance. Nothing holds us back like what I'm going to share with you now. Sport you play, if you like cycling, you like swimming, you like running, whatever it is, I guarantee you now, nothing is holding you back more than this. A relationship you're in, something you want to do with your career, your business or your team, guarantee you now, this is the one that's going to hold you back more than anything else. Because you've been so good, allowing me to speak to you at the end of your day today, and I'm going to tell you this in the form of a story. So feel free to loosen your ties, kick off your shoes. I'll do the work from here, guys. Let me tell you the story of cardiac catheterization. What? Cardiac catheterization. It's important that you know it. So you take a tube. You get the tube and you place it through the cubital area of the arm or through the femoral area of the leg. It then goes in usually through the right-hand ventricle of the heart. It allows doctors to diagnose disease inside the heart. It allows doctors to take photographs inside the heart. It allows doctors to place medicine directly inside the heart. It's phenomenal. Pioneered by a German doctor called Werner Forssmann. Werner Forssmann was the first doctor ever to have the idea in Germany in the mid-1920s. He told 42 other doctors in the area of East Germany where he worked about the idea. All 42 doctors said, "No, it's impossible. It can't be done. You can't pierce a human heart and the patient survive. This is ludicrous, Forssmann. Why on earth would you believe this to be true?" All 42 doctors said no, it would be impossible. Forssmann believed in the idea. He went to the hospital administrator at Ebersveld Teaching Hospital where he worked. He told the hospital administrator of the idea and said, "Will you give me a patient?" Hospital administrator said, "No, I'll not give you a patient because it's the worst idea I've ever heard. You can't pierce a human heart and the patient survive. No, Forssmann, go away." Forssmann believed in the idea. He went back to the hospital administrator. He said, "Give me a patient who is dying. Give me a patient in the process of death. We'll pierce the heart in the final moments and prove it still functions." Hospital administrator said, "No, I will not do that. It's immoral, unethical. The patient will still die as a result of your procedure, Forssmann. Go away, Forceman. Never mention the idea to me again. Forceman believed in the idea. What did he decide to do? Anyone know? What did he decide to do? Yeah. He decided to do it on himself. Now, I'm not sure if anyone in this room has tried self-cardiac catheterization. We've all been a bit drunk in lockdown. But he found out that he couldn't do it by himself. He found out he couldn't do it on his own. He needed access to the operating theatre, and he needed access to the equipment. He couldn't do it by himself. He had an issue. He found a solution in Gerda Ditzum. Gerda Ditzum was the senior staff nurse at the hospital. She had access to the equipment. She had access to the operating theatres. He decided to seduce her. He decided that they should become boyfriend and girlfriend for the sole reason of getting her to help him with the experiment. He seduced her. They became boyfriend and girlfriend. He told her the idea one night and said, "Will you help me?" She said, "No, I will not help you. You're going to kill yourself. And you want me to be an accomplice to murder, suicide, whatever it is, I'm not getting involved. This is ludicrous. And you are a madman. And this is not a romantic first date." I made a bit up. That bit's not true. I made a bit up. I wish it was. But forget that last bit. But within the year, she'd agreed to help him. She said, "I will help you, but I will help you under one condition, and only ever under one condition." What was the condition? Do you know?
He dies, she dies with him.
Oh, you're so romantic. So romantic. It's a bit of Romeo and Juliet in that one. Very romantic. Someone said to me the other day, I was telling someone the story actually over a beer, and I said, "Can you guess what?" She said, if you marry me, I'll help you as long as you marry me." That's so romantic, isn't it? That's even more romantic than that one. I had a friend of mine a few weeks ago ask me whether he should get married. I said, "You don't ask me that. You don't ask anyone that. You ask yourself that. You don't ask any friends whether you should get married. You ask yourself whether you should get married." I said, "Why would you get married?" He said, "I get married for the regular sex." I said, "Getting married for the regular sex is like buying a Boeing 747 for the peanuts. It's a ridiculous notion." Anyway, look, come on, look, we're having a chat now. Let's go back to the story. Go back to the story. So I will help you. I will help you, and I'll help you under one condition. The condition is you carry out the procedure on me. You say you love me, and you say it works. The only way you'll ever know is if I am your patient. Forceman thought about it and then came back after 3 days and agreed. October the 24th, 1929, operating theatre 2B, Ebersveld Teaching Hospital, 7:36 p.m. in the evening. Gerda Ditzum was restrained on an operating table. He placed a local anaesthetic into her left arm. He then made a small incision. He then leant over and whispered in her ear, "I've forgotten something." He went into the room next door, where he carried out the procedure on himself. Now, he thought he had the catheter in 60 centimetres in through his left arm, and in through the top of the right-hand ventricle of his heart, or in through the atrium, wasn't sure. At that point, the door burst open. Hospital administrator and his friend had a tip-off. Someone had told them it was going on. They came into the room and saw Gerda Ditzum restrained on a table. They saw Forceman with a tube coming out of his arm. They did what any man of science would do. What did they do? They yanked on the catheter, pulled on it. Forceman leant back against the wall and started kicking frantically at the hospital administrator. A fight broke out. If you Google cardiac catheterization, you can see the X-ray. It was taken that very night. Now hangs at Berlin Hospital. It is a testament to human endeavour, medical exploration, bravery, boldness on a scale that thankfully we don't even need to imagine. Forceman lost his job. He wasn't allowed to practice medicine in the area again. Do you know what he became? What his next job was? He became a woodcutter. He used to cut wood for a living after that. In 1956, he won the Nobel Prize for Medicine. Finally recognised a pioneer in surgery, still used today, saved millions of lives every single year. It's incredible. What's the moral of the story? Why have I told you this? What's the moral of the story? I'll tell you what the moral of the story is not. The moral of the story is not you can seduce a work colleague, attack the boss and still get promoted. What's the matter with you people? No. The story is not about Forceman in the slightest. The story is about the 42 doctors who said no. That's what the story is about. 42 doctors with high technical expertise. 42 doctors who knew a lot. That's why they were wrong. Belief system, what we believe to be true. The map is not the territory. We do three things with all information that comes our way. We delete, we distort, and we filter in accordance to our own belief system. That's what we do. The reason why it's a limiting factor is that we always prove ourselves right, even when we're wrong. That's why it's a limiting factor. We delete, distort, and filter every single thing in accordance to what we believe is true. So when you had some product information for me, you'd sit there and you would delete, distort, and filter everything you're hearing in accordance to what you believe is true. That's why it limits us in regard to our performance. I'm not getting at you, it's a human thing, we all do it. That's the issue, that we all do it. Whatever your viewpoint is on AI, AR, nanotechnology, 3D printing, blockchain, whatever your viewpoint is on BMW drivers, whatever your viewpoint is on your pensions policy, grievance procedure, whatever your viewpoint is on your candidate capture techniques, whatever your viewpoint is on your digital strategy, whatever your viewpoint is on yourself, you are wrong. But you will always prove yourself right. We live in a world of our own making. The world reflects back, treats us like we treat it. I guarantee you now that the hardest thing that I do in business or in sport is try to convince people that the world that they're experiencing is merely a reflection of their own attitude towards it. Guarantee it's the hardest thing. I think it's the timer telling me to get off. Usually people telling me to get off, not necessarily electronics. It's actually technology saying you're rubbish. And I guarantee you it's the hardest thing that I do, because people just always prove themselves right, even when they're wrong, and always find the evidence to fit. Sarkhanvili was a Hungarian psychiatrist. He was brilliant. He specialised in human belief system. He studied things like voodoo, faith healing, reincarnation. These things rely on the belief system. I was at Miami Airport not so long ago. I had one of those Hare Krishna people come up to me. You sometimes get them at American airports. He said, "Do you believe in reincarnation?" I said, "Not you again." It's a confusion technique. Use it. They don't like it. Use it. It works, honestly. Anyway, Sarkhanvili had a patient who believed he was a corpse, a patient who believed he was a dead body. He thought, what can I possibly do? I know, I've got it. One day the patient comes to see the psychiatrist. Psychiatrist says to the patient, "Do you still believe you're dead?" Patient said, "Of course I'm dead. Can't you see that I'm dead?" "Yes." "Okay, then do you believe that dead bodies bleed?" Patient thought about it. And then the patient got angry. "Of course the dead body cannot bleed. Why do you waste my time? Dead bodies do not bleed, and everyone knows the dead body cannot bleed." At that point, the psychiatrist grabbed a pin, stuck it straight into the patient's hand. Sure enough, he bled. What did the patient say? "My word, I didn't know. Dead bodies do bleed." We prove ourselves right, even when we're wrong. We do it all the time. Do you get an email from someone? You see who it's from, you see the title of it, you roll your eyes, and then you open it. It's from finance, isn't it? From finance. But you see who it's from, see the title, you roll your eyes. Then you open. Your next decision as a leader in your organisation is flawed. And the reason why is that you are now making a decision based upon bias and prejudice. Nothing is good, nothing is bad. It is as it is. So we need to move away from the bias and prejudice, the belief systems that hold us in place. I guarantee you now, there has never been a better time to challenge what you believe to be true. Honestly, there's never been a better time to do it. I think that those who experiment the most will win, in any sector actually. It's better to be disrupted from the inside than from the outside. And we all found that out a few years ago, didn't we? The pace of change internally must match the pace of change externally. A question we need to ask ourselves all the time is, are we changing as fast as the world around us? It's a really important question. We need to remember that the immigrant will always see things that the citizen is blind to. Step away from knowing a lot, being HR professionals, being technologists, step away from all that. Move into a space where we're more human-led, technology-enabled. That for me is the future of leadership, future of business, by the way. It's human-led, technology-enabled. You don't solve new problems with old thinking. It's that simple. So what we need to do is to make sure we challenge the belief systems that we live by in our businesses and ourselves individually. It's tricky, and our conversation has come full circle. It's tricky because we all think differently, that's why. You've all got different opinions, different viewpoints, different ways of seeing the world, every single one of you. You've all had the same evidence of me today, same experience of me today. I've worn the same clothes for every single one of you. I've said the same words for every single one of you. You all have the same experience of me. Someone on this side of the room will think that he's a fabulously engaging, charismatic, knowledgeable, good-looking speaker, whereas someone on this side of the room will think exactly the same. It's a bad example. I couldn't get out of it, actually. It's a bad example. Bad example. I'm tired. The better example is, if I said describe the room, you could describe the room. If I said stand on a chair, describe the room, you would describe it differently. Evidence is the same, perspective is different. That's where we need to be. I think there'll be two types of organisation in the future, and only two types. Brave or dead. It's up to us as leaders and colleagues to choose which one we would like to be a part of. It's been a pleasure speaking for you today. I hope there's one word, one sentence, one idea which is of use to you and you can utilise to springboard yourself and your team to even greater success. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you.